Welcome to the second part of my tutorial on basic page styles with CSS. So, as we were looking at, we were making the text necessary for this preview of our page in PowerPoint. So, we're continuing with our basic CSS commands, and we're going to learn how to use classes to distinguish between similar elements. So, to demonstrate what I mean, let's get moving. Here we have an image which appears as this large image right here. Therefore, I'm going to copy that image a second time. And I want to apply different styles to both images. Notice that I will have two images appear on my web page. But on the first image, I want my first image to span 100% the width of the page, and I want my second image to be only 50%. Now, as we do this usually, we go in our index.html and we go look at the tag, and this is tag image. So then we will open Firefox and write image, and then write sorry, I had to add my curly braces first. So we do with 100%, and that resizes the image to 100% of the width of the browser. Notice that if I drag my browser around, the images resize according to the width of the browser. However, I'm applying that style on both images at once, and that's not what I want. I want to be able to separate these images into two distinct types of images, or two distinct styles. So the way we do that is that we first add an identifier inside the web page, and that identifier we call a class. So this I will call class image 100 for 100%, and here I'll call this class image 50 for 50%. Now I could write anything as a class name, just as long as you can remember it is good. Therefore, with my image here, if I were in HTML, I would write class equals image 100%, but that's not exactly how we do. In CSS, instead of writing class equals, we write dot, and that means class. So image class, image 100, will have this width of 100% applied to it. Therefore, we have our class image 100 right here. And in our style sheet, we have class image 100. So let me refresh the page. And here we go. Now, notice that this style applies only specifically to image, but not only an image, but also an image that has the class 100. That is why this image here is not affected at all. Because it is an image, but this does not refer to only an image. It refers to an image with the class 100. If the image does not have class 100 within it, then it will not be 100% wide. Therefore, I can select my other image, which is image 50, and to that one I'll apply a width of 50%. And what that does, it selects uniquely my second image and makes it 50% wide. So as you can see, that's actually quite simple, and that's how classes work. So for the next part, we were going to check how we use pseudo classes. Pseudo classes are kind of subclasses that occur when an action happens. So see, here we have link unvisited, link visited, hover, focus, active. Basically this refers to your mouse. So my mouse right here, I started clicking when I shouldn't. So my mouse right here, when it hovers over a link, I can make the link change styles. it works exactly like a class, but we call it a pseudo class. And when focus is when we tab over to a link. Maybe you've never done that before, but when you tab continually, you'll end up that you select all of the links in the document and it starts over. So yeah, when you focus, it's in reality when you tab. So you can make something happen when you tap over a link, and you can also make something happen when you click a link. That's a pseudo class called active. And these three classes will apply to anything. I could apply them to a title, I could apply them to anything other than a link. These two only apply to links because they have to do with whether or not a link has been visited or not. That's why you see in search engines, for instance, if you've already visited a page, the link will become purple because the link has already been visited. So it uses that pseudo class of visited to apply a new color to that link. So let's start working. I'll want my browser here. First of all, we have this link here, and remember that this link is A. It uses a tag called A. Therefore, to select it, and to select any link in our document, we just need to write A. Now, I don't want any link in my document to have an underline. I hate that, okay? Because what underline means is when you write a manuscript document, you'll underline text to mean that it is italicized. However, there are other ways to italicize text in HTML, and we don't do it with an underline. So I'll go in text decoration. Oh boy, so bad typing. Text decoration, I'll write none, because the underline is considered, I'm sorry, forgive me. So my text decoration, an underline is considered to be a text decoration. That's why when I cancel it, it cancels the underline. So that's simple to understand. And now we're gonna do something else also. We'll say when a link, we'll say every link will be orange. In case you haven't noted it, over here, my link is orange. This is supposed to represent a link. So every link in a document from now on will be orange. Of course, if I add a new sort of link with a special class, then I can override what I've written here. Now let's go on with the pseudo classes as we have said. So the first pseudo class we'll apply is hover, and that's basically what will happen when we hover over our link. Right now, nothing happens at all. So we'll make our link change color. For that, I'll just to be simple, let's make our link change to yellow. Okay, so when I hover over it right now, notice it changes from orange to yellow, which is very nice. Now we're going to add another class, a pseudo class, which is called active. And what active does is when I click on it, it'll change the styles once again. So for active, notice that when it's active, it keeps my style of hover, because I'm still hovering over it, but I'm also clicking. So I could change the color, but what I will do is I'll call it font style, and I'll write italic. So that when you will click on a link, it'll italicize it simply. So that shows you that you're performing an action. Now we have used these, hover and active. Now we want to use focus also, and focus, just so that I can demonstrate, if I tab, I'm using my tab key, and you see there that when it selects the text, it puts a box around it to make it clear that I've tabbed there, and that it's a bit like hover, with tab selects your link. So Control Shift I, we're gonna put the same style for when I hover as when I tab through. Therefore, we could write this. We could write a pseudo class focus, which would be when I tab, and we could make color yellow. However, I don't want to repeat my statement again, and there's no need to do that, because when I do this, I write a pseudo class focus, then separated by a comma, then I've applied this same style to both elements. So that means that if I close this pane and I re-tab again, now I have my style applied, so that when I hover over it and when I tab to it, it's gonna have the same style, which is nice. Now then, let's continue with link and visited. So for that, remember that link is when a link is unvisited. Now since we have clicked on that one already, that means it's visited. So we'll only see this style visited applied to it. So if we go right now and we do a visited, we'll apply the color, we'll just write color red. And that means that when this is a bit bright, but when, wait a little bit, we have our image editor here. I'll open our screenshot again. We'll open our toolbox and select the color select button, and this tiny little space where I can select my color, and here we go. Now we have the orange. Notice that I'm able to modify this orange, and I get the new hex code over here. So I'm going to make it a somewhat darker orange and select that hex code. And therefore, when we make our pound symbol, Control V, this means that when this link has been visited, it'll have a new style applied to it, which is a little darker orange. Now maybe that's not too evident right now, but if you had other links beside it, well, that might become more obvious. Now I'll move my A visited up, because I would still like that when I hover over a visited link, it change color. So therefore, it's going to work, because remember that this A visited was canceling my color here, because it came afterwards. So if that's confusing, just just do what I say for right now. You'll figure it out later. So we have done visited, and when we write, I'll do it over here. When we write a link, it's basically for when the link has not been visited. So right now, we already have a color for all of the links, whether or not they have a class, a pseudo class. So what I could just do is, cut my color here, and that'll give no color to the link specifically, but when I do a link, which is an unvisited link, I can apply that color, and any unvisited link will have that color. So that's how it works. So that's how pseudo classes work. And this is the end of our learning of basic CSS commands. So our next tutorial will be upon the subject of basic meta tags. So we'll learn how to make our HTML document complete, because right now it's not exactly complete. Our code still needs some fill-ins, including a title, and how to add a link to an icon that'll appear on the top left of your browser right here, a little icon similar to this one, a title here, and a title that appears in search engines. So stay tuned for our next tutorial on how to complete our web pages, our basic